Welcome to the Common Man Football Show. My name is James Coburn, and today's episode, we're talking about the 2018 NFL Draft Class, specifically Connor Williams, offensive tackle slash offensive guard, depending on who you talk to, of Texas. So we're going to get into his athleticism profile, essentially looking at how he tested at the combine based on athleticism data, and then give you a general idea of what his potential is based on that data, and also give you somewhat of a athletic comp for him, or at least players that test kind of similar to him in terms of athleticism data. So if you're new to the channel and you're new to the work that I do, all terms and definitions will be in the description. So if you're not familiar with what a explosive lower body strength score is, what a speed score is, or what a flexibility score is, you can just basically go to the description and find out all that information if there's anything that you're lost on as I talk in this video. So first off, getting to Connor Williams' athleticism data, he had an 89.35 explosive lower body strength score, a 74.39 speed score, and a 57.22 flexibility score. Based on his athleticism data, he pretty much hits every single bottom end threshold in terms of all pro potential, in terms of explosiveness, and in terms of flexibility, and he hits at least above the bottom end threshold for Pro Bowl players when it comes to his speed score. So he doesn't quite have the speed of an all-pro player in terms of the bottom end threshold, like the lowest score of what an all-pro player typically scores, but he does at least have Pro Bowl speed. His flexibility is definitely Pro Bowl level, and his explosiveness is definitely Pro Bowl level as well. When you look at the averages at the position, this is where you come into a couple issues though, because again, the average score for an all-pro player is 87.20 out of 100, so his explosiveness is fine in terms of that particular area, but his speed is definitely below average what an all-pro player is, below average what a Pro Bowl player is, and his balance score is also below average considering all-pro players, Pro Bowl players, and even starters to a certain extent. So he does have good explosiveness. He has at least starter level speed, at least above average starter level speed, but his balance score is a little bit off in terms of his overall data. So he's a guy that's explosive and above average speed for his size, but his balance is a little less than ideal in terms of the position. In terms of players that he tests similar to, and again, this is just guys that kind of have a similar sort of profile. Not exactly like him, but similar. One guy in particular is DJ Fluker. Of course, DJ Fluker was a tackle before he moved to guard, but this is a very similar profile because both these guys are 6'5", and they tested kind of similar. Fluker was a guy that had above average explosiveness, above average speed, and his flexibility score was not exactly the best. It was decent, but not the best. And then, of course, when you get to another guy, DJ Humphries. DJ Humphries is a little bit less athletic than Connor Williams, but similar sort of profile. Above average explosiveness, above average speed. Flexibility testing or balance testing is a little bit off in terms of overall data. And Humphries is another guy that, from a size perspective, Humphries was a guy that was about 6'5", similar sort of body type, if you will, in terms of both these players. For the most part, though, in terms of what the ideal position for Connor Williams is, it's really hard to say. There are offensive tackles at 6'5" or less that typically do well, but the ones that are like extremely above average, guys like Trent Williams, guys like Jason Peters, those guys were elite athletes. Those guys were 90+ percentile in terms of explosiveness, speed, and flexibility. On top of a guy, even Dwayne Brown was a guy that was 90+ percentile in terms of explosiveness, speed, and flexibility. So, height is something that doesn't get talked a lot about when it comes to offensive tackles, but it is something that I have noticed in the data that a lot of times offensive tackles that are a little bit shorter might be better fits at guard. In terms of what Connor Williams' athleticism traits say about him, it basically says that he's kind of a ZBS type of offensive tackle. He's a guy that you want to... He's a guy who kind of will be a little bit better in terms of pass protection, of course, because that explosiveness is really helpful when you're talking about getting into your pass set, getting a lot more depth. When you're talking about coming out of your stance and getting more depth, when you're explosive, you're kind of able to do that a little bit better than guys who aren't as explosive. So in terms of a guy as like a pass protector, I think he could really fit well if you put him in that type of role. If you're talking about him to be this kind of big mauler type or get him out in space and get hat on a hat, or just maintain blocks for a long time. I don't quite think that's there with Connor Williams, just because of his balance issues. You know, when you're talking about a guy that has that issue in terms of flexibility, he's not going to hold up forever. Like, he's not a guy that you're ever going to say has like an elite level anchor based on his balance score, is all I'm trying to say. But he is a guy that I think, if you put him in a ZBS scheme, put him in a scheme where he's mostly just pass protecting, I think you can get a lot out of Connor Williams in that type of scheme. And if you move him in at guard, there's nothing wrong with that either. I think, again, when you look at his guard potential, he would be a little bit better than a DJ Fluker in terms of his potential as a guard, from that kind of perspective. So, but bottom line, I think Connor Williams definitely has potential to be a starting offensive tackle, but I do think there are some concerns about how versatile he is in terms of the scheme that you want to put him into, and I don't think that he's a guy that has a guarantee to become like an all-pro Pro Bowl player, or at least a Pro Bowl player at the very least. I don't think it's a guarantee he could become that. He could, but I don't think it's a guarantee just because of his balance or flexibility issues to a certain extent. And of course, my name is James Coburn. You can find my other work at draftcoburn.wordpress.com. You can also follow me on Twitter at Geometrics. And if you like this content and you want more content like this, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. Share this video as well with anybody that you know. Hit that notification button so that you're always reminded another video of mine drops. And I'll talk to you guys in the next video. Peace.